The idea of just saying to myself, okay, I'm going to go 19 years and never have a drink again. That's just enough to send you off on a binge, isn't it? But you can do easy things, and you can get anywhere from here. You ever hear the line, a journey of 1,000 miles, what, begins with one step? That's right out of the Tao Te Ching. That was Lao Tzu. It's so simple. So when you think about balance in your life, think like this about being in balance. You have a dream, and your dream is to live a life that goes a certain way, that looks a certain way, that feels a certain way. You have a dream that you would like to be able to attract prosperity into your life, that you would like to live a prosperous life. My favorite example, I did it on the PBS show, of the lady sitting next to me from San Francisco who was flying back from Maui after having just done a wedding. And I said to her, what do you do? And she said, I'm a photographer. And I said, oh, how's it going? And she said, well, she said, I'm never going to get rich at it. Now, this is just a thought. Is it true? I don't know if it's true. How can that be? How can you know if that's true, that you're never going to get rich? You don't know. So I said to her, well, would you like to get rich? This was what I always ask when people ask. Well, she said, well, of course. She said, who wouldn't want to be rich? Everybody wants to be able to buy the things they want. We all want that. I said, so let me see if I understand. You would like to get rich. That's your dream. But what you offer up to that dream is that it'll never happen. That's out of balance. That's the kind of balance I'm speaking about. The kind of balance that you begin to realize that there's a misalignment, if you will, between what it is that you are thinking and what it is that you offer up in the way of habits to make those dreams a reality. I call it principles for creating habits to match your desire. Listen to this quote. It's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, want, like what you want, is a growing giant whom the coat of have was never large enough to cover. Want is a growing giant whom the coat of have was never large enough to cover. That is, what you want and what you have are completely and totally out of balance. And Lao Tzu says this to you through me. When you put your attention on what you intend to create and you stay aligned with the way, with the source from which you came, it will show up. It has to. It has to. So that all of the deficiencies, all of the things that you want but are not able to manifest, have not manifested yet into your life, all of it is not because the universe isn't working with you. It will. It's because you are not a vibrational match, an energetic match to what it is that you would like to create. And all today is about is learning to change the way you look at your life and understanding that the life that you're living will change just by your changing your opinion about it. It's so beautifully freeing to not be concerned any longer with whether or not what you would like to have is going to show up. If you would like to accomplish something, you must first expect it of yourself. And my question to you is, what do you expect of yourself? Do you expect to be able to perform miracles, to attract into your life the kind of prosperity that you are entitled to? Do you expect that you can manifest the kind of relationships that you would like? In order to be able to have these kinds of expectations for yourself, you have to make a dramatic change, a dramatic shift. You must change what's possible for you.
And as you know that there's more to you than just this body and this ego that is in that body, you recognize, I am a divine being, and this highest part of myself is where I want to begin my efforts at becoming a manifester. And here are just a few suggestions that I would recommend you do on a daily basis to get you to the place where you can learn to live from this highest self. The first of these is, whenever you're about to act, to do anything, if you have any conflict at all, you can ask yourself the question, is what I'm about to say, is what I'm about to do going to bring me peace, more peace in my life, or is it going to bring a sense of turmoil? Is there going to be some struggle, some anxiety as a result of what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do? If the answer is peace, then it's your highest self. If the answer is turmoil, struggle, anxiety, stress, then the answer is your ego. So now you've identified, and now you know how to act. The way to act is with the way that will bring you peace. Even if it seems inconsistent, the way to act is the way that will bring you peace. The second thing to do is to start to learn to go beyond this restriction that you've experienced in the physical plane. The restrictions of the physical plane are many. Begin to say, I can transcend that. In your mind, begin to look at yourself as living in that physical plane, but that's not who you are. So figure out ways in your own consciousness to just get past all of these limitations that are a part of your body and your world. The third is, wherever you go, refuse to defend yourself to anyone or to anything on the earth plane. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to prove yourself. You can just quietly be an effective human being and not get yourself into that position where you're arguing with someone over the rightness of how you feel. Just let go of that. And the higher part of you is saying, I want peace. I want peace. It's always there. Keep that in mind. And finally, learn to surrender and to trust in that wisdom that created you. The act of surrendering is letting go. Once you surrender and once you let go, you find yourself a whole lot freer in your life. This air that you're breathing is very friendly. This fire that keeps you warm, this sun that keeps you warm, it's very friendly. And so is the grass that you walk upon, and so is the snow that falls down, and so is the rain. Everything about the universe is supportive of you. So see it as a friendly place, rather than a place that is conspiring against you. You are not an organism in this environment. You are an organism/environment. You cannot be disconnected from it ever. So honoring that and recognizing that in your manifestation process, the work that you are doing to attract to yourself that which you desire in your life, you are really manifesting something that is you are already a part of. You're just bringing into your world space that which is already you. So the way to put this principle to work in your life, here are a few suggestions that I would make, is first to make a conscious effort to check yourself when you begin to think in ways that reflect your separateness. When you start seeing something and telling yourself that, I'm not connected to that, or I can kill this, or I can move that, and it won't make any difference. And what difference does it make anyway if we cut down all of these trees, or whatever? Begin to see yourself as someone who is connected to everything in your universe, and that divine force that flows through you also is flowing through all of that. Second thing I would do is to just contemplate the energy that is your life force. This thing that keeps you alive, that is you in the first place. It's not that bone and gristle and blood and all of that you are looking at. It is something that is invisible, that is within you, and it is also in all of those things that you see in your environment. I would also begin to practice being gentle and respectful and loving toward the life force, not just in yourself, but in all things. And being respectful of it reminds you that you are in some way connected to it, so that by being kind to others, you are also being kind to yourself. There's something very much truthful in the notion that we are the world. It's more than just a clever song title. It really reflects that we all are a part of everything in this world, that none of us can be disconnected from it. I would also, again, determine that I would spend some time each day alone and in silence, meditating on this principle. And you repeat that affirmation, I am not an organism in an environment. I am an organism. I am connected to it all. And just remind yourself of that. Also, I would make the space of my life as sacred as I possibly can, have as much beauty and sacredness in all things that show up in my life. Each and every one of us really do reflect the totality of humanity. We are all just little slivers in this whole conglomeration called humanity. And that when you take one of us and put a laser beam through it, just like on your credit card, it reflects the whole. And each one of us reflects that whole.
Saint Germain spoke to me and said, it's all you have to do is spend 15 minutes being in a state of appreciation for the I am presence that you are. Now, one of the things that the I am discourses taught that I was having trouble with this whole idea of manifesting is written on page 318. And I'd like to give this to you as we get ready to close. The student should constantly look within his human self and see what habits or creations are there that need to be plucked out and disposed of. For only by refusing to any longer allow habits of judging, condemning, and criticizing to exist can he be free. Are you hearing this? The true activity of the student is only to perfect his own world, and he cannot do it as long as he sees imperfection in the world of any of God's children. That includes the person who opened fire in Aurora. That includes Osama bin Laden. That includes Adolf Hitler. Any judgments that we have of judgment, criticism, and condemnation. And I wanted to manifest something so bad for such a long period of time, but the person that was involved in it, I kept having this sense of judgment toward this person. And it wasn't until I was able to say, I accept you for what you are. It's what led me to my father's grave in 1974. And I stood there after being sent there by a series of just absolutely impossible coincidences. I stood there on his grave after being filled with rage and hatred and anger and bitterness towards this man who would walk out on my mother and her 3 young boys. I was the youngest. And I finally found out about his death, that he had been dead 10 years, but I went to his grave in 1974 on August the 30th. And as I walked away from his grave, because I really went there to piss on his grave, I was so just filled with rage in him. And as I walked back to the rent-a-car, something called me back, and I went and stood there looking at this plate on the ground that said Melvin Lyle Dyer, 1914 to 1964. And something came over me. In fact, we've made a film about it, another film called My Greatest Teacher. And I was able to say to my father, from this moment on, I send you love. Who am I to judge you and condemn you? You did what you knew how to do, given the conditions of your life. And I accept you for it. Mark Twain once said that forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. On the heel that has crushed it. Enjoy it. My greatest teacher. Who was my greatest teacher? After that, my entire life changed. I stopped drinking. I started exercising. My writing shifted. I went back to New York. I was professor at St. John's University in New York City. I took 2 weeks to go down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, checked into the Spindrift Motel, and wrote a book called Your Erroneous Zones in 14 days. 14 days. Today, there's close to 100 million copies in 47 languages around the world. And everything in my life after that shifted. My diet changed, my habits changed, everything turned around because I got the rage out of me. Because in order to attract the elements that are going to bring you the ability to manifest into your life what you want. Remember how I opened this program. We do not manifest what we want. That comes from a place of missing. We manifest what we are. The angels who will guide you throughout your life will only be there for you when they recognize themselves in you. And they cannot recognize themselves in you and guide you when you are filled with hatred, anger, judgment, condemnation, bitterness, fear, anxiety, stress. You have to let all of that go and be love. Be in this place of perfect divine love. Love for everything and everyone on our planet. That's self-actualization at work. T.S. Eliot, the great American poet, said, "We shall not cease from exploration, but at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated, but to know it for the first time." I paraphrase that, it's off a little. To know it for the first time. I think that T.S. Eliot might have been speaking about death, but I'm not. I think that we can come to know this place from which we originated, the place to which we return, all of us, by allowing this spark to become something bigger than just an occasional thing where you extend an act of kindness someplace, or you have it at the church or at the mosque or at the synagogue on a holy day or a holy observance, that it can become your way of being. There was a great teacher in India. His name was Vivekananda. Vivekananda came to the West as a young teacher, a very profound teacher. And he was asked the question, but how do you do this? How do you access this higher self? How do you make this your reality? And he said these words to his devotees, and I say them to you. He said, in the springtime, go out and observe the blossoms on the fruit trees. He said, the blossoms vanish of themselves as the fruit grows. And so too will the lower self, the false self, the ego, vanish as the divine grows within you. It's about allowing yourself to recognize you must have this spark because this is what you came from, and this is what you return to. And as this spark becomes a fragment and becomes a section and becomes larger and larger, you reach what I call in Wishes Fulfilled, the third chapter, the highest self. And what is the highest self? This is the one that's going to surprise you a bit. The highest self is the self that you haven't been trained to believe in. You've been trained to believe in your ordinary awareness. Your highest self is where you begin to recognize your connection to your source, to the Tao, to the divine, to God. A book by a man named U.S. Anderson, U.L.S. Anderson, passed away in 1986. Very profound teacher. And he wrote a book called 3 Magic Words. At the very end, he said these words. Chapter 12, the very end of it. It's called The Veil Removed. This is the ineffable secret, the ultimate illumination, the key to peace and power. You are God. Those are the 3 magic words. If you will accept this towering truth and dare to stand atop this magnificent pinnacle, universal consciousness will be revealed to you from within. God is there. It is He who peers from behind your eyes, who is your own consciousness, who is your very self. You are not just a part of God, you are altogether God. And God is altogether you. Now, that's scary stuff for a lot of people. We weren't raised to believe that. I'm not saying that you ought to go out into the world and say, excuse me, but you know who you're talking to, that I am God. And the reason that we laugh is because we think of God as the God that we've created in our own image, the God of the ego, the God who's angry, the God who wants special favors, the God who has the ability to heal but withholds it. But there's another word that Jesus used in the New Testament, and this is the God I speak of, quoting him. God is love. And he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in me, and I in him. God is love. Pure, unconditional, blissful, divine love. That's who you are. The second great teaching was a man named Neville Goddard, passed away in 1972, lectured over in California, particularly in the 40s and 50s and 60s. I read his book, The Power of Awareness, 7 times. I gave it to each one of my children at Christmas a couple of years ago, and they called me up and they said, "Dad, it's great, but I don't understand it. It's a little heavy." I said, "Well, then maybe it's part of my dharma to make it a little clearer." And chapter 27, the last chapter of his book, The Power of Awareness, it says this: in all of creation, in all of eternity, in all the realms of your infinite being, the most wonderful fact is that which is stressed in the first chapter of this book. You are God. You are the I am that I am. You are consciousness. You are the creator. This is the mystery. This is the great secret known by the seers and prophets and mystics throughout the ages. This is the truth that you can never know intellectually. If you want to understand something intellectually, what you must do is analyze it, come up with a formula for it, study it, look at other experts about it, and come up to a conclusion. If you want to understand something spiritually, you must first experience it. You must come to know this within.
I am personally convinced that everyone has a capacity for greatness that transcends anything they've been taught to believe, that every being who's ever existed is in fact a portion of the all-creating power of intention. Since we're all pieces of the infinite creative source, we should continually be telling ourselves, quote, "I came from God, and since I must be like what I came from, I am a piece of the divine," unquote. Trying to imagine the all-creating spiritual force coming up with excuses for anything is impossible because it is creating from its own consciousness. Now put yourself in this picture. While your mind is part of the unlimited source, it becomes limited when you believe it to be fallible, weak, impotent, or any other adjective that misidentifies with creative energy. When you edge God out in this manner, you invite ego, which is known as the false self by spiritual teachers of all persuasions, in. Allow yourself to look through your new lens by acquiring a set of beliefs that includes your spiritual or God-realized nature. It may feel a little unfamiliar or even mysterious at first, but be willing to allow your senses to adjust to this new way of seeing. Transcend the idea that your genetic makeup is static. With your new ability to perceive ego, you'll become a wizard who easily dethrones the dictator of your false self, bypassing early conditioning imposed by people in your environment who have edged God out. As you get comfortable with this new way of seeing yourself, ask yourself the following question: if no one told me who I was, who would I be? Quietly meditate on this by spending some time in the spaciousness of not knowing. Imagine that your subconscious mind is non-existent, and there's no storage receptacle for excuses during your life. There's just an open and inviting clear space inside of you, a tabula rasa or a blank slate with a magical surface that nothing adheres to. You might imagine that your everyday conscious mind simply doesn't absorb the opinions of the folks you grew up with. In this little fantasy, there's never been anyone telling you who you are. So who are you? When I did this exercise, I found that my answer to the above question was quite simple. I would be anything that I and only I decided to be in this moment and all future moments. As the song goes, I've got to be me. And that means jettisoning all of the excuses I've accumulated. My habitual life wouldn't be based upon anyone's early programming, since there wouldn't be anyone who ever told me who I am. Or, as the Tao teaches, quote, "Look to nature for your sustenance. Look to the great mysterious Tao, or God, that does nothing and leaves nothing undone. Observe how the entire universe and all of these beautiful Tao-centered creatures work," unquote. Tao-centered creatures allow, they trust, they live here in the present moment, and, most assuredly, they have no need for any excuses. I'm sure you're familiar with some variation of this popular excuse, "I can't help it, it runs in my family." New biology, however, has proven that beliefs can override DNA. So move what you thought was a fact to the excuse file by changing how you view its authenticity. You can change what you perceive as immutable and beyond your reach by eliminating excuses such as the ones in the genetic excuse category. As my friend Greg Braden writes in his astonishing book, The Spontaneous Healing of Belief, quote, "Paradigm-shattering experiments published in leading-edge, peer-reviewed journals reveal that we're bathed in a field of intelligent energy that fills what used to be thought of as empty space. Additional discoveries show beyond any reasonable doubt that this field responds to us. It rearranges itself in the presence of our heart-based feelings and beliefs, and this is the revolution that changes everything." Unquote. Here are 2 exercises to practice applying these ideas to your genetic program. 1. Be open to the scientifically verified idea that your beliefs have the power to rearrange and change the material world. Start by making this particularly pertinent for you in your physical and personal destiny by contemplating the more things of this nature are possible than you've previously experienced. Allow these new thoughts about your biology to gently enter your belief system. Encourage yourself to consider your beliefs as things that affect you, perhaps even more than physical particles do. If it suits you, you may even see beliefs as non-particles in the non-material or spiritual world. 2. Create an affirmation that attests to this new no excuses philosophy for genetics. Something from the following list would work fine, but feel free to come up with your own. I can change my body's infirmities by shifting my beliefs. Affirm, I have the power to undo old thoughts about my genetic destiny. Affirm, if I stay with them and live from my heart, my beliefs can inspire new talents if I so desire. Affirm, I can heal anything by healing my beliefs first. Affirm, I intend to keep my beliefs uppermost, and I refuse to blame anything in the material world for any deficiencies in my life.
If you can learn to put your attention on what you want, to ask for it, and to intend that it will attract into your life, and be passionate about it, independent of whether anybody else likes it or doesn't like it, you literally will create it. Because you think, what you think about is what expands. You act upon your thoughts, as it says in the Old Testament. As you think, so shall you be. It is out of that invisible world that you attract things into your life. So that's the good news. Here's the bad news. What you really, 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 4 reallys, don't want, you will also get. And this is truly the problem for people who are not good at manifesting into their life. Now, I'm speaking about this not as a materializer, but as someone who in 57 years has been able to literally attract whatever I've put my attention on in my life. And it's not because I'm more intelligent, I'm more blessed, I'm luckier, I'm richer, I'm anything like that. It's because I have followed these principles in my life. If you understand that what you think about is what expands, as you think, so shall you be. This is like every field of spiritual teaching and discipline talks about the power of thoughts to create into the material world. And if your thoughts are on what you don't want, and that's where you've put your inner energy on what you don't want, then what you don't want has to materialize into the physical world. So if you think that you can lose weight by putting your attention on despising being fat, you have to understand that despising being fat is what you will continue to manifest into your life. And if you put your attention on not having enough money, being poor, and disliking being poor, and expect to manifest prosperity into your life from an inner energy system which says, I despise being poor,
you have to understand that despising being poor is what you will continue to manifest into your life. And if you put your attention on what is in your life, just what is what will continue to manifest into your life. And if you put your attention on what always has been, which is what the tribe will tell you to do, we've always done it this way. If your attention is on what always has been or on the circumstances of your life, then the circumstances of your life and what always has been is what you will continue to manifest into your life. So what we have to do, and this is like a multiple choice question. It's A, B, C. You can put your attention on what you want. You can put your attention on what you don't want. That's B. Or you can put your attention on what they want for you. That's C. You got those three choices. And if you don't understand that A is the right answer, this isn't going to help you. You have to think of your thoughts and your inner world and your capacity to be able to attract things into your life. You have to think of these things as like currency.
The last 5 minutes of your day, you were to say, I feel great. I feel joyful. I experienced what I want. I met the person that I wanted to meet. I was able to get the job that I wanted to get. And you start saying to yourself, this is how I feel. Now you've got 8 hours, and your subconscious mind believes that that's who you are and what you want. And for the next 8 hours, it begins to align you in the mysterious way that none of us can understand, that allows for the manifestation of the materialization to take place. It comes from the feelings. Feelings are the manifestors within your life and within your body. And you go to those feelings and stay with that. Does that make sense to you? Because to me, I do it every single night. I refuse to spend the last 5 minutes before I enter into that world in which my subconscious mind is going to believe that I want to go over all the things that are wrong and all the things I don't like and all the stuff that is bothering me. Instead, I go off to sleep into that beautiful world of peace and joy and fulfillment, because that's what I feel, and I created it in my mind.
Every problem that you face has a vibrational frequency and a movement to it. When problems collide with our slowed down solid world, we feel the conflict as an imbalance in our energy field. Thus, diseases of all kind represent a frequency and a movement just like everything else in the universe. Addictions too have a frequency or movement. Fear, stress, and anxiety, these are all frequencies. I believe we all have the potential to learn to increase the speed of our vibrations. In the slowest vibrations, we have illness and disharmony. In faster but still slow vibrations, we have ordinary human awareness. Thought and spirit are found in the fastest vibrations. For the purpose of explanation only, I have assigned an arbitrary figure representing the frequency speed. A equals 10,000 cycles per second, B equals 20,000 cycles per second, and C is 100,000 cycles per second. Consider first your physical health, where most of your time is spent attempting to reach point B, where you will feel okay because you have an absence of symptoms. Between point A and point B is where you take medicine, consult medical practitioners, and generally strive to get to a point where you just feel okay. Point C represents super health. You can do 500 sit-ups, run a marathon, and be toxin-free. Hypothetically, disease materializes at a very low energy frequency. Ordinary human awareness is what we call a normal frequency, and super health represents a balanced, fast vibration which has the ability to counteract disease frequencies. This can also be applied to your emotional state. At A, we find fear, anxiety, anger, and mental disease. At point B, your emotional well-being is stable and you feel all right, but any dramatic shift in circumstances or the behaviors of others can send you back into that frenzied world of worry and fear and guilt and depression and so on. Point C symbolizes perfect emotional health. Here you know that no one can interfere with your bliss. The actions and opinions of others have no unpleasant effect on your emotional state. Realistically, the movement from A to C is a shift in energy frequencies which you can cultivate and choose. When you speed your energy up, what you consider to be accidents and misfortunes are simply gone. In these faster vibrational frequencies, you are able to invoke intuition, insight, and other potentials which are dormant when you're in ordinary human awareness. There is one more element on this A, B, C continuum which I'm speaking about that plays a significant role in ending problems by accessing spiritual guidance. I'll call the third element in this example consciousness. At point A, the lowest level is ego consciousness. At this frequency, you resonate with an inner view that you are separate from everyone else and in competition with the rest of the world. Ego consciousness is a very slow frequency in which you feel distinctly separate from spirit. As you progress to average human consciousness, you reach point B on this continuum. Point B, I call group consciousness. Here, you identify yourself on the basis of what groups you have chosen to align yourself with or been assigned to as a result of your birthplace, your ethnic identity, or your cultural label. In group consciousness, you have the frequency of awareness that categorizes life with phrases like, I am male, you are female. I am old, you are young. I am Italian, you are Chinese. I am Christian, you are Muslim. I am white, you are black. On and on the groupings go, pigeonholing everyone into a frequency where conflict resolution is accomplished by determining who is right, stronger, better, or whatever. Wars are the outcome of group consciousness. Ancient enmities continue to flourish because of geographic boundary disputes, religious traditions, cultural practices, and so on. Every time you find yourself labeling others or yourself, you're setting up a potential problem. It becomes you against whoever is in the other group. Illness becomes a battleground when you must fight that which is invading the territory that you call my body. Lack of prosperity is due to others having more of what you want. Point B, group consciousness, is a step up from A, ego consciousness. However, point B still keeps you squarely in the middle of a life that is not peaceful or able to nullify problems. At this frequency, having problems is considered a normal function of living. As you approach point C on the consciousness scale, you reach a place that I call unity or God consciousness, where separation is unknown. You see no divisions, and you know that you are connected to everyone and all living creatures. In this state of unity consciousness, you no longer view your life circumstances as problems.
We are all infinite beings in a temporary human experience. I've said it over and over again. Whenever people ask me what's my very favorite quote, my very favorite observation, it came from Pierre Teilhard, the French priest who was excommunicated from the Catholic Church for his outrageous ideas. He said that we're not here as human beings having a spiritual experience. It's the other way around. We are all infinite spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And coming to a place where we live our lives from that infinite place and beginning to know our soul. Now remember, if it's infinite, it doesn't stop any place. It doesn't start any place. That's by definition infinite. So if something doesn't start and doesn't stop, what is it doing? It has to be expanding, doesn't it? The minute it stops expanding, it's finite. We're no longer talking about the soul. We're talking about what Blake said, we've become, we see with, not through our eyes. So here's what I jotted down. The ideal of the soul, the thing that it asks for, is neither knowledge, nor light, nor happiness. The ideal of the soul is space, immensity. The one thing it needs, more than anything else, is to be free to expand and to reach out and to embrace the infinite. Yeah, the ideal of the soul is infinity because that's what the soul is. It is miserable when it is circumscribed or restricted in any way. Now, I have 8 children, 6 beautiful daughters and 2 sons. But one of the things I know about children is that no one likes being told what to do. And this isn't just children, this is all of us. One of my favorite songs is a song from when I was back in high school. Oh, give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Boy, you know it. Don't fence me in. Don't restrict me. Don't put boundaries on me. Don't tell me what I can do and what I can't do. Don't tell me how to be there. Don't tell me what to wear, what to think. Don't tell me how to do yoga. Don't tell me, I don't want to be told. This is the soul speaking, always. The soul is constantly having a desire to expand and grow. And anything or anyone that comes into your life that attempts to do that, you will find yourself fighting it and reaching back. Particularly will you find this in your yoga practice. Yoga, the word yoga means what? Union. Union with what? Your highest self. Union with God. This is what the highest self is. It's the part of you, the place within you that is not worshiping God. That's what religion has brought to us and taught us, that God is outside of us. It's the part and the place within you that knows that at your highest level, you are God. Each and every one of us. And when you are connected to the highest place within yourself, when you are connected to the God that you are, you have all the powers of the creative source of the universe. You become the Tao. The Tao becomes you. Most of us were raised to become ordinary. And I'm not putting down ordinary, but ordinary is just not good enough for me. Ordinary is you go through your life and you fill out the forms and you pay your taxes and you do what your parents tell you and you're honorable and you're honest and you're a good citizen and then you die. Extraordinary is something very, very different. This is about recognizing within yourself that there's something very, very extraordinary that you haven't been trained to believe in, to come to a place where you can apply it and put it into your life. And I want to say to you that I have been working in my life at living an extraordinary life, and so many powerful things have happened to me. But more than that, you can go way beyond ordinary. You can go way beyond just being average. There's not an average person watching this show. There's not an average person in this room tonight. All of us are extraordinary. We just have to come to believe it. Don't allow anybody to put you in a box. Who you are is a divine piece of the source, of God. And move in your life to a place where you understand it's who you are.